what has Riot done so far with their lore, and what can they do to make it better?
A while ago, I believe that they hired somebody from a writer from Warhammer 40k, and I think with the Bilgewater update, the first one. Wait, was the Bilgewater update the first one they had some sort of story going? Yeah, I think it was. Where they had this kind of lore story going on that would actually affect a character in the game, Gangplank. And I thought that the way the story was written is incredibly interesting because suddenly you have this sort of progression going on. That's something that I complained originally about, where you would have, let's say, we're going to introduce Gnar, okay? And Gnar's in an ice cube, and there's Gnar, and he doesn't interact with anybody, right? Or in the case of the Shurima lore, you have Sivir, you have Azir, you have Renekton, you have Nasus, you have Zarif, you have Cassiopeia, unless I'm maybe missing somebody, perhaps I am. But these characters interact with each other. But then when the events of Shurima are over, there is no more progression. It just kind of stays in its own block, stuck in space somewhere, encased in ice, and nothing happens with it. But with the Bilgewater lore, this is really interesting because you get some sort of progression, and this progression kind of goes on and kind of gets referenced, I believe, in later stories. Now, the problem is, League of Legends doesn't really have a plot anymore. Like, ever since they decided to get rid of the Institute of War, which is like the place where you would have the actual summoners, as in the players, controlling the champions, that's kind of like, okay, these characters have these stories, but for some reason you can play them on Summoner's Rift, right? For actually no reason whatsoever, you can play them in Summoner's Rift. Like, there is no reason for Echo to be in Summoner's Rift. There's no reason whatsoever. But there is reasoning behind his character story as his own comic. But I think they're heading in the right direction, but at the same time, I think that it's still very underutilized. It is still very, very underutilized because, again, there's a narrative, but it's not, like, that compelling yet. Then against Riot, who said, oh, you should create strong characters so that they're interesting. And I'm not sure if they meant by strong character, because the guy that was talking about it, at PAX, I think, or something, seemed to be implying that strong character meant a character with personality, as a backstory, as a reason why you would care about them. But really, what to me sounds, the strong character at Riot is like, oh, let's have Jinx and let's put as many memes in there as possible. Or let's make the character easily recognizable, because Jinx is a signature character, I think.
What's interesting is that you were saying Warhammer, they brought someone in for Warhammer, which is coming full circle, because Warcraft was pretty much copied off of Warhammer. Then Warcraft became Warcraft 1, 2, 3. Then the map editor became Dota. Then all these MOBAs. So it's interesting that from like the inception of this entire thing, like the great grandfather got pulled to help with the history of it. So it's the good news is it sounds like they're pulling the right people.
Yeah, they are.